is there going to be a vote after the executive session as to whether you're going to accept the terms that are already on the website?
No, that'll be on Thursday.
So then how, but I guess I'm questioning, if you're not going to be changing the terms that are on there, and that's what's already been negotiated, why it's not a negotiation because it's already been negotiated. It's not a client attorney because it's
It definitely is a client attorney because the entire council has not had the opportunity to discuss the negotiation.
And if there's no change to it, and it's already been negotiated, such as the terms that are already on the website, what changes there?
Again, there may be no changes, but if after executive session, the governing body is not proceeding on it, then there'd be, I guess, no need for public input on it. But their presentation will be Thursday.
And who's going to make when the determination can be made? If you're trying to determine when the governing body is going to decide to go forward with it, are you going to have a vote about that?
No, the plan, if there's a consensus in executive session that the governing body wishes to move forward on Thursday, then that'll occur. It's already been advertised. The reason we're Thursday, if everyone remembers, is the advertising time frame. We were trying to do it all this evening, but we needed the extra days. That's why Thursday, we needed the 10 days for publication, whatever the rules are, Jane. You help me on that one. That's why it's Thursday. It was not meant to be a separate meeting. It just worked out that way. So the plan has always been this evening, because the negotiation was just finalized a week ago this past Friday, right thereabouts, between those who were negotiating, which was our attorney, myself, and Councilman Yazdi. The council has not even had a discussion on that final proposal. It went out on the website because we promised that we would get it out to the public. So the public has really seen it at the same time as Councilman D'Amato, Shortman, Schiffman, and Duncan. So I feel there's a need for an executive session to have the council understand in full terms the process of how we negotiated. And then once there's no more need for executive session Thursday, the plan is to have a public presentation on the facts, open to public comment for all the questions that people may have, and then if the council pleasure is to vote on this.
I also have a question about, I don't believe that the ordinance that was adopted was appropriate. Because I don't think that any of the criteria that the planning board had issued in their report apply. Because the area was not a blighted area. And being that it was not a blighted area, you can't determine it to be an area in need of redevelopment.
Again, the planning board made the recommendation to the governing body to move forward as we have. The Department of Consumer Affairs has also signed off as they received our request and have...
Well, they're going to accept whatever your request is to make it that area, but
correct.
I don't see how... did you receive any kind of letter from the attorney stating why this was considered an area in need of development?
From the attorney?
Mm-hmm.
It was part of the planner for the Burgess plan and
Is
a
there an
recommendation.
attorney?
Excuse me?
Is that the attorney?
Well, the attorney concurred with Burgess's plan and the planning board's recommendation to the governing body to proceed.
Was that concurrence in writing?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if we have something. I could ask you, Fred, when he gets here. I mean, Tracy's not so familiar with that. Fred will be here for the executive session portion on that matter. So the ordinance, again, it was all an issue of timing, where the ordinance was publicized referencing a financial agreement, which has then since been negotiated, which will become
Yeah, I mean,
of an agreement.
the statute states that it has to not be able to be built with private funds. It's being built with private funds. It's already started with private funds.
That's not a true statement. A pilot program cannot be built with private funds.
That's one of the criteria for making it an area in need of redevelopment.
No.
Yes, it is.
Again, these are the kind of questions for Thursday. Absolutely.
That's one is the redevelopment plan, and the other is the pilot
But the
program.
redevelopment plan has already been adopted.
But I don't think it was appropriate.
Well, thank you for your comments. It's already been adopted.
Illegal. Great.
Anyone else? Seeing no motion to close early?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Again, there's no need at this time for early executive session. Any reports from the governing body?
Yeah, I just have a report after my discussion with you regarding the Paquonic River cleanup, that I was disappointed that we didn't give the lunch to the local business that we had originally discussed last spring after the first town cleanup. I also was in the Borough Hall on Friday at 1:30, and there was no one here. No one. There were people at the tax office, and they said to me, "Are they closed?" And I said, "Well, I know the tax office wasn't open." And they said, "There's not even a note on the window." They were pretty upset, and I was surprised that there was no one in the building at all at 1:30 on Friday. So I know Ted isn't here to answer that, but
Ted was on vacation last week, and I was in early in the morning. I was here for a few hours. The borough was quite quiet, and the girls had asked if they could leave the premises for lunch, and my advice was, being it was a holiday weekend, to leave early for the day.
okay, well, none of us knew that, and I think it would just put a note on the window. That's-
It wasn't a...
Well, I guess they were at the tax office, and there was no note there. So, when that's going to happen, I think they would have accepted it quite well if it had just said this office is closed today.
Correct.
But that would be my comment on that. My other comment is, I've sent a memo to try and get copies of the July and August water and sewer report and the DPW report that I haven't seen and I haven't heard about. One of the comments I got back from our superintendent of the DPW when I asked, are we preparing to get the proper equipment and the proper certification to do the fields that we all agreed should be done next spring? His answer was, all the guys can do is spray weed killer. I'd like that to be back on the agenda. My March memo said that Rocco will get us a list of equipment, and I'd just like to update that and keep that on the pending list and get that information also. That's all my questions and whatever I have.
Anyone else today? Okay. Professional reports. I don't think, Tracy, you have anything at this time. There'll be some executive session. We'll wait for Fred. Borough Administrator again will report at our next meeting on the 18th for his report. Again, Thursday is specific to a special meeting for the pilot. Jane, you have anything?
Just a reminder, the candlelight walk is next Tuesday, and we're lighting up here at 7 o'clock for a long proceeding to go.
Thank you. Department reports, again, you all have received a copy of the recent flow reports from the Sewer Water Authority, Sewer Authority, excuse me. You've also received copies of the police activity reports, property maintenance reports, and so on, for your...
And the other property, regarding the property maintenance report, we had 2 meetings ago, and I know that Ray was very forceful and involved in zero tolerance with property maintenance, and Ted had told us that he would work with Bill Tyson and get back to us on that, and I'd just like, since Ted isn't here, to put that on his next report also.
Report on that. Okay, pending business. Discussion regards to proposal from Borough Auditor in regards to LoSAP audit and the sewer water utility audit. Now, just so there's no confusion, we received a total of 3 proposals. We received a total of a proposal from Lindsay Lurch Higgins for $1,500 to audit the LoSAP, which is the, in lack of better words, retirement plan for volunteer firemen. And we received a proposal, I believe, of $8,000 to perform an audit on the sewer and water utility. And then there was a third proposal for the study on the merger. So there was, I just want to make sure everyone's not confused. A couple meetings ago, we had in front of us the merger proposal, and Ted had stated he was asking for a utility audit. So, Councilwoman, I know you had questions, Councilman Trutman, on this. Were you referring to the merger or the audit of the utility?
Yes, I'd like to do the complete audit of merger with
See,
the...
again, there's two things.
Well, I would like to do both of them, the LoSAP and the audit of...
Okay, I'll retract. There's 3 things.
Okay.
There's LoSAP audit, there's audit of the utility, and then there was the auditor to do a study of the merger, this proposed merger concept. Those are the 3 proposals we received. $1,500, and I believe there were $8,000 each for the audit and the merger study. And at the last meeting, Ted stated that utility did not have the funds in this year's budget to proceed, and you do not have a certification of funds from treasurer and/or CFO on proceeding with these matters. I mean, I'll defer to you being on the budget committee and Ray as the chair. There was no money budgeted in the utility this year for, I mean, combined, it would be $17,500.
Well, at our last meeting, the board attorney was very clear. Unless you have certification of funds, don't bring it up.
Well, to
He was
vote.
very clear about it, right? He said, unless you have the money, why are you putting it on an agenda? Why are you bringing it up as a discussion? If you don't have the money to do it, why discuss it?
Well, actually, excuse me if I may, the attorney was referencing a memo from the CFO stating the certification of funds requirements, et cetera. So I just didn't know where you wanted to proceed with this, Councilwoman. because
The
it's
way I
here.
want to proceed with it is I would like to make a motion to have our borough auditors have his proposal enacted, and I would make that motion pending certification of funds.
That was the whole gist of the
Do I have to
attorney
say
last
that?
week. You can't make a motion pending. You
Pending.
need
That was-
certification of funds. That's what was discussed at the last meeting.
Well,
So
according
why don't you
to,
just, why don't you,
well, I'd like to make the motion, and if the funds aren't certified, then the motion dies.
that's exactly what the CFO.
No, he didn't
recommended.
say pending certification of funds.
Well, the
The
other
audit we are going to accept tonight shows that we have $341,000 in that.
In surplus, absolutely,
Surplus,
which
right.
cannot be used as part of the operating budget. Wasn't budgeted.
You cannot
I agree, in
spend
order needs to be
money
done,
that was
don't get me
not
wrong.
budgeted.
Right.
You
No,
to
I
budget for
have
it to
sent a
spend it.
memo to the CFO, which I haven't heard back from,
Right.
and I don't think this should wait any longer, and that's my
You cannot
motion.
vote without certification of funds.
But you can vote pending
No,
certification
that was the
of
whole point of
funds.
the last meeting, is you cannot do that.
Well,
And
I didn't
again,
understand it
I'm
that
on
way.
record, I agree an audit of the utility should be done. Now, is that what you're referring to?
No,
or-
I'm referring to the merger, the audit. I'm referring to all of it. It's time this was done.
Okay, but Councilman, I need to be clear. There's $1,500 for the LoSAP audit. There's $8,000 for the audit of the utility, and then there's another $8,000 for the merger stuff. Combined, it's $17,500. What is it you'd like to see get done?
I would like to see the LoSAP, I'd like to see the audit, and I'd like to see the merger study.
And I don't disagree with you, because I stated on the merger issue, which I do not support, I've stated, at the very least, the council has to, look at having the auditor prepare something, which I didn't think would cost $8,000, to be honest with you. That's $17,500. We have been told there's no money in the
Before
utilities
we go
budget
there,
to do something.
I offered to actually sit and go through this with, and I believe it was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you took it as the lead, you were going to call the meeting, we were going to go through the
I don't-
numbers just to make sure this thing made sense before we go spend $8,000. We haven't even done that. Why are we looking to spend
I
$8,000?
think with the proposal on the table, it makes sense to do this now because we have questions coming up about this utility, and I think
Do me a
they
favor.
need to be
Is that
answered.
your proposal?
This is a month ago. No, I had made a motion,
But
but
you
either
cannot
it's
make a
seconded
motion
or
without
not.
certification of
Well, then
funds.
give me a legal opinion that I can't make a motion pending
Okay,
certification. The planning board does it all the time.
I would love to actually adjourn and go to last meeting's agenda, what the CFO gave to us on this issue. Can we do that?
If the funds don't become certified, the motion dies and is not valid anyway.
But again, I disagree with that's the process you
Our
would take.
attorney said we can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I know what practice in the past, but I don't think you should move forward. Before you go, Councilman, and I agree the LoSAP needs to be audited, the utility needs to be audited. I do not agree spending $8,000 on a proposed merger study. I think that's very expensive to do that. I think actually that number should be shot. I know on the audit, we did get a second proposal. I had Ted Formey reach out to a separate auditing firm, and it was $2,000 less, but the general audit was $6,000 proposal. So, I don't want to be authorizing money, one, that we don't have, and two, that may be higher than the second estimate. To Councilman Yaz's point, our treasurer has worked a spreadsheet that shows roughly a $60,000 savings. I've stated on the record numerous times on this merger that if the utility was to be merged with Compton Lakes, which is what we're talking about, there are costs that would now, employee costs, because the employees of the utility don't go away, okay? Their DPW employees assigned to the utility. those employees would go to the DPW. Even your answer could be, well, then we don't need them anymore. Those 3 employees would not be the employees, I'm not sure you're talking about this.
No, can the public get an explanation of what it is you're talking about and what it is you want to spend this money on?
It's spending $17,000.
No. We come up with an idea, we explain the idea, we present it, then we say it's cost justified or not. There's been no discussion around this. I've asked to see the spreadsheet that someone's put together. Nothing's been provided. All of a sudden, we're making motions to spend $8,000 more on an auditor.
17,000.
Well, what does price include and exclude? That's the other question I gotta ask. When we hire an auditor, what's included, what's excluded? Why are we like nickel and dimed on everything that needs to get reviewed? Right?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Where is Mr. Samaru?
He'll be here later.
No, where is Mr. Samaru? I paid for an attorney to be here, out of my tax dollars. No. We just asked an legal opinion. Somebody wanted a legal opinion here, and we have to wait. That's second fiddle, I'm sorry. I don't accept that.
More of a reason.
No, I'm very upset about this. This is not right. So we have a professional who's being paid. And we have somebody, no offense, but we have somebody else sitting in who cannot give us this legal opinion as we speak.
Well, because I was referencing something Fred stated at a prior meeting.
That's
I would
why
be
Fred
expecting-
has to be here. You're exactly right, John. I agree 100%. Why isn't Fred here?
He will be here, so if you want.
He is not here now.
Okay, based
This
on
is what we need
your
these answers.
statement, then this item should be held until Fred gets here, because he will be here. You know.
I'm not
The
pointing
agenda.
the
You want to go back to the last year about attendance, don't even go there, please. Please. Unbelievable.
attendant.
Again, I said,
Yeah,
let's not,
nobody stand in for
let's
him.
not go there.
I'm happy to provide a legal opinion if that is what you're seeking. And it is the legal opinion of our office that without a certification of funds, we cannot move to make a motion on this issue.
And you can't make a motion that says pending certification of funds?
No, we need the certification of funds.
Which is what we discussed.
And that comes from the CFO?
Ultimately, yeah, yes.
You have a $341,000 surplus, we're not sort of can't use any of that.
Because it wasn't budgeted in this year's budget. Ray,
What
speak to
about,
that issue.
what about an emergency? You had a water main break.
Ray, can you
Is
speak
that
to that issue?
budgeted?
You
It's an
cannot,
emergency item.
yes, there is a budget for water main breaks and things of that sort. There is nothing budgeted for that line item, so you can't actually do the expenditure until November when you can start to transfer money. So until then, I would just put it to the side. But until then, let the public know what it is that you're seeking, what it is that we're talking about. Let the council understand it. I don't know a thing about this.
The water sewer department hasn't been ordered in years.
Right, but that's not what Councilwoman Sherman said. She's
That's not what she
seeking
said.
a study on the merger of our utility with Ponton Lake. So you're
Why don't we
saying,
pull the merger out for now and do the low SAP and the,
because you don't have certification of funds. That was the whole beginning of the discussion. Okay. Again, I agree wholeheartedly, LoSAP and the audit and the utility needs to be audited, no question about it. If we get certification of funds, those two issues should move forward. But I'm confident we're not going to get that certification based on statements from finance that they're expecting a shortfall in the utility based on, current operations. To your point, transferring Ray November 1st, but still not out of surplus. That's within the operating budget if there's money to transfer. Please explain the surplus piece. We have surplus in the utility.
You have to budget the surplus in order to then spend it. It's against the law to spend money that you don't have.
Negative budget.
transfer.
Within
If
the
there is
department, not out of surplus. Not out of surplus. Okay, so
So my suggestion with our legal opinion is to keep this on the agenda
that's fine.
and to direct Ted or whoever else directs the CFOs
Okay.
to see if they can
Okay.
certify funds for this.
Well,
so
Ms.
we can
Shortman,
move on
can
it.
I ask you to present something, what it is that you want to merge, why you want to spend $8,000?
You can ask me, yes.
Can you present that? Before we even make the motion
No.
or go ask for
Before we do,
certification?
No.
So you just want to spend the money.
I feel
For something that you
personally
know
that we
about
are
and the rest of us
burying
have
the
nothing to do.
utility proposal and just putting roadblocks in the way to move forward on this. And I think that in order to know where that utility stands, it needs a complete audit and it needs a study. We've had some things that Sherry's looked at, we've had some proposals, well, it's only $60,000. Well, I'd like to have the facts from an auditor that I feel is qualified to give us the facts on this merger.
Your CFO and treasurer have certified those facts, that,
The merger?
yes, that will net a savings of $60,000 to the utility, and there'll be an excess of $200,000 in cost shifted to current operating budget, that you cannot absorb under
See,
cap.
I don't agree with that.
But
So
Well, I
we can
appreciate
debate
all
that
this.
at another
I don't know
time.
what you're talking about.
This is primarily last year's discussion. There's been no roadblocks because no one's moved on the issue. And I don't think spending...
Roadblock is to get the audit done.
Again, see, use careful with your words. Audit is different than merger study. The audit's not going to give you the answer you're looking for. The merger study,
Right.
there's three
Exactly,
things here,
exactly.
okay? So, again, you keep referencing audit, so I don't want to confuse anyone on the governing body or the public.
Right.
There's LoSAP audit, there's utility audit, and there's merger study.
Right.
Totally $17,500 for all three, 15 and 8 apiece on the other two.
All right, and the second one, to audit the utility, it will prove that we need to raise the rates. That's what it will prove, because we haven't raised rates in many, many years. However, we have a development coming in with many new people getting attached to the water, and it's going to bring in additional funds.
So then we
Why
don't
are we
have
going
to
to go
raise
raise
the rate?
fees and then a year later have a nice surplus? If we have a $340,000 surplus, which I don't know about, but it sounds like you've done your research, why are we raising fees? So to do an audit that's going to say, go raise your fees,
You don't have to
Why?
raise- You don't have to raise it at that time.
why? Why go spend $8,000 to figure out something that you and I should be figuring out? And not to bash the auditor, but the LoSAP is a legal requirement that we have to do every single year. Why wasn't it included in the original price that he gave us? Why is this popping up all of a sudden? Oh, you got LoSAP, I need to charge for that. Why is this extra fees? Anyone ever asked that question? I'd love to ask him the question, but I don't want to bash him tonight.
Did
But
you
you
ask
guys are
that
pushing
when
this
we
conversation.
discussed the contract?
I'm sorry?
Did you ask that question when we discussed the proposal?
No, I was brand new on. I have no idea what's legal requirements, what's not. We depended on someone that's been doing this for years and
Councilman
years.
Yazdi voted no for the contract because it was more money than another bid. Anyway, but to Councilman Yazdi's point, what is it, the merger, I believe too that between our CFO, our new CFO, who hasn't looked at this yet either, and our treasurer, should be the first opportunity to review that merger, the numbers. The numbers are clear, how much you're going to pay out, what you're going to save. There's no reason to spend $8,000 at this point on the merger. Why don't we let Mr. Nicolosi and Sherry and Councilwoman Shortman, you this entire year. I mean, last year we talked about it, we had a few executive sessions on it, and it really went nowhere. Okay? No one put roadblocks in front of it, it just never went anywhere.
Oh, sure.
So I'm saying Councilman Yazdi, Councilwoman Shortman, the treasurer, and our CFO, Len Nicolosi, the four of you should sit together first, look at the initial spreadsheets on the proposal, and then move from there. And if at the end of that, we can't agree, then maybe we have to go that next step to the merger. I'm confident, because I believe it's been proven already, that the savings is not warranted because of the shift to current operating expense. I said that on the public record at least a dozen times in the last 2 years, a year and a half. Again, I think that everyone else needs to understand. I think our CFO, who we're paying, should be the one first and have him pay another $8,000. Councilwoman, is that satisfactory?
That's
All right.
it.
So why don't we start there? Then on the other issue of the LoSAP audit and the utility audit, I actually absolutely agree with the councilman that, these are extra fees above the contract that they should possibly be competitively priced. I did have Ted to check the $8,000 price, go to Smith Klein, and it was $6,000. It was $2,000 less to do the utility audit. So we're going to certify funds for 8,000 when we can actually get less again?
But before we even do
I know,
that,
that's the utility, I'm just saying.
and my question is, have we ever been charged for a low SAP audit before? Right? Why is this above and beyond?
I don't believe we haven't. We haven't been charged for budget preparation before, and things like that.
When was the last utility audit?
Utility audit, I can't, before my people, I can't speak to that. That would be Ted or utility questions. Well, have it raised,
Our costs have gone up, and we haven't raised fees, so
in how many years?
we're gonna be
4 years?
running short.
4 years?
I don't have all the details, but they were telling me about it. And I didn't want to hear it, because we just passed the budget, and the utility budget was a part of it. And we had in order to go through that entire budget, including the utility budget, that we passed. So now to pay an additional $8,000, and he's gonna come in and go, all right, they're right, you have to raise your fees, you need to raise your fees. When we know we're gonna have another development being added in, it's gonna bring in more revenue. We know there's things wrong with our infrastructure that needs to get fixed. $1.2 million is gonna get injected, and we should be spending that money to reduce our costs rather than going in and taxing our people more. It just doesn't make sense. Why go start taxing people more to then what? Promise to give it back later? It's not gonna happen.
No, but I
I
think.
think we are saying to tax.
I think it's long coming, and I think that you need an audit to see where your line items are increasing and what's stabilized. So you can make a logical decision on it.
I don't think anyone disagrees with you, but I think Councilman's point is, with an influx of revenue this borough hasn't seen both on the usage side and the fee side in 30, 40 years, why spend $8 grand now when there may not be the need to? You know what has to be done. I just don't think you can afford it this year. Why don't we do this? We agreed on the merger piece to have the board look at that. Regarding the LoSAP and the utility audit, again, we can ask the clerk to try to get a certification of funds from the CFO for $1,500 for LoSAP, not to exceed $8,000 on the utility merger, excuse me, the utility audit. Just so you have certification if money's even available, Councilwoman.
I'd like certification for the merger also. Why not? And let us make a decision on it
That's fine.
after we discuss it and we
That's
know
fine.
if we have
You don't
the
need a
money.
motion for that. That's something administratively we can ask you to get certification funds to then proceed.
Okay.
But on the 18th of September, I ask you not to proceed on the merger because the four of you just agreed to meet. Now, do that by the 18th, so then you'll know your answers if you need to do something further. But let me ask you this. Can we, or should we, seek RFPs on those proposals of LoSAP audit and utility audit? We're just taking our current auditor's proposals. We already received one at my request, which was, excuse me, it was $1,500 less, $6,500 from Smith Klein. I think we should do RFP requests on both of those, not just, assume 8,000 when I know we can get less. Is that something the government is willing to do?
I think we should, instead of doing that, wait until.
If you have the certification of funds?
Until we get
Sure. But I'm asking you, once you have that, are you willing to shop the numbers?
Absolutely. 17,000, what was the number?
8,815. Three proposals.
So, and we paid him, what, 33 already?
Yeah.
That's up to a number.
I'm just
that
asking,
needs to get.
would you agree at this point to shop those services? That's all I'm asking. Would you agree to shop the services?
As long as everybody shopped has the same specifications.
Of course, right, okay. So that's,
And we don't find out somebody's amount and then tell somebody else what that amount is. Is this going to be conducted on like a bid basis?
Councilman Demotta? Absolutely. Glenn? Right, Mark, right? All right, so we'll, just for the record. Okay.
We're going to write a formal proposal, request for proposal.
Right.
Sealed bids, everything.
Yeah, right? Full of shield, request for proposal, right? Absolutely. Just a problem. Okay. Moving right along.
First, we're gonna wait for the funds, though, see if we have the funds, correct?
Good. Why proceed if you don't?
I agree.
Introduction to new business. Item A, review utility surplus. Again, kind of what we were talking about. This I had asked for on the agenda from our last meeting when we were told there's no money. right away after the meeting, I asked Jake to put this on. Again, we raised the surplus, 341,000. What we've learned is nothing was budgeted this year, we just went over that. So, again, that's all part of that same conversation. Authorization to apply for DOT grant for Rafkin Road. As you know, every year we apply for a DOT grant. In 2011, we applied for Rafkin Road, and we received $1 million so to do, and to get about half of it. So I'm suggesting we apply for the balance to do all of Rafkin Road. The one prior to that was Reland Ave, which was just completed. So I'm asking for a motion to authorize, which is really, the application is already prepared from last year. The engineer just has to update and submit again so we get enough funding to do all of it, instead of half of it. So I'm asking for a motion to approve that our engineer submits the DOT grant for Rafkin Road, which has a deadline, I believe. Jane, do you have that?
What is the grant, John?
For road paving, I'm sorry.
No, is it a straight up grant?
It's like a safe roads to schools, which is, again, we were awarded money last year on Rafkin, but not enough to do just half.
Straight up.
So August 8th, we received the memo, the deadline for the application. Again, this is for fiscal year 2013. I want to say it's October 15th. I know we have time, that's what's on this agenda. Again, just to we can do the whole thing, you know, it's a safe streets to schools for sidewalks and road paving.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Conklin.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
Schiffman.
Yes.
Shortman.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
Jane, I'd ask you first thing in the morning to email Paul that was voted on and to proceed with that application. Item C, adoption resolution 2012, 9.1. Acknowledgement receipt of the audit for year end 12/31/11. Need a motion that you all received, signed off, and that's fine, but everyone's reviewed the audit. So I have that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Tomato.
Yes.
Schiffman.
Yes.
Shortman.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Item D, introduction by title. This is going to be on hold. Let me just give you a briefing on this one. A number of years ago, the town, before I think any of our time, introduced an ordinance regarding clothing bins on property. And the ordinance, our code allows it to be on municipal property, and that's it. It can't be on private property. So there's a permit process too. So we need to look at the ordinance, because I don't feel we should prohibit all clothing bins on private property if they're benefiting, for example, the DARE program. And that's just the case. So we don't want to lose a revenue source for our police department, particularly the DARE program. But before we proceed, I was advised by Fred, he wants to check the zoning at these lot blocks where they exist to see if it's already in zoning. Zoning may approve, the planning board applications way back whenever, may have approved clothing bins. Therefore, we wouldn't have to amend anything. It would be part of the allowance in an application approval. If not, then I'm going to proceed to move to amend the ordinance to allow for private property as long as it benefits, which Fred's also looking into to make sure you can do that. Entities such as police departments, municipal line, things like that. Okay, so we're tabling this for now, until we get more information. Update from Borough Attorney in regards to HAS agreement for monitoring Avalon Bay rental units. I can address this. This has to do with the affordable housing units at Avalon Bay. We were all questioning, because Jane receives a lot of phone calls from interested parties looking to get in the lottery for affordable housing units in Avalon Bay. And long story short, Fred has arranged an agreement with Community Grants and Planning Company, which is a company the borough's used for many, many years, where they will do all the administrative work regarding the application process and lottery process for affordable housing units to be paid for entirely by Avalon Bay. So I just wanted that, publicly stated that Community Grants Planning and Housing, called CGP&H, are now administering the affordable housing process on the 9 available affordable housing units in Avalon Bay. Avalon Bay has agreed to be responsible for payment of any services rendered by CGP&H in connection with this project. That's all. I mean, Avalon Bay is doing a draft contract with them just putting it on the record so everyone knows how that works, because I was in the dark on how that works.
Do we get a yearly report?
Well, this is for, again, it's really between Avalon Bay and Community Grants and Planning, as far as, there's a lottery, that people can do applications. And then one day, there's a lottery to pull out the 9 people who are eligible. I mean,
Are they state licensed to do this?
Community Grants and Planning, yeah, that's why they went to. We're not involved at all. I'm just putting on the record how it's done. I mean, they're changing my name. You know,
We used to have a color board at one point that reviewed.
not anymore. This is now handled, there's Alyssa Marchese is the contact person. This contact information should be provided to any interested applicants. The reason this came about is because Jane was getting calls, and Terry, what do we do? They know where to send these people. Just for the governing body, so you know if you're asked, Community Grants and Planning is working with Avalon Bay and handling that. Alyssa Marchese at 609-371-1937, extension 11, is the person at Community Grants and Planning who's handling. So if anyone comes up and says, hey, I'm interested, you can say, you gotta call Avalon Bay, you gotta call Community Grants and Planning. We're really, really much.
What's CGP, Community Grants?
Community Grants and Planning and Housing.
And housing. And what does HAS mean?
That was the-
Right. Right, right. We had a co-administrator, the borough had contracted Haas years ago to administer co. So the cost is absorbed by that. Just so you know. I've been asking, I'm sure. I need a motion to waive the raffle license fee for our friends at the library.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I also need a motion to approve Lake Iosco to use the council chambers on November 17th,
So moved.
12 p.m. for their annual stockholders meeting.
So moved.
There's a move by Yasi, second by Shore.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
My discussion is, I believe they do this year.
Every year.
And there's
Forever.
nothing involved in extra personnel or cleanup or anything?
Not at all.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to accept the resignation of planning board member Catherine Heck. Do I need a motion on this? They're my appointments, right? They're all appointments?
To accept her resignation.
Yeah, I don't, but I'm just, they're mayoral appointments. I don't know.
Wouldn't hurt.
All right, let's just for the record, just you sign, a motion to accept the resignation.
So
So,
moved.
second.
Any further discussion, other than thanking Catherine for serving as long as she had? All in favor?
Aye.
Now that. There obviously now is a vacancy in her Class 5 seat, which expires 12/31/13. I just got to confirm, because we do this every year, it's confusing, is, I believe they're mayoral appointments. All right, so what my plan is, currently Craig Olenschlager sits in the mayor's rep seat. What I want to do is move Craig into this seat. Okay, so again, it's a direct mayoral appointment, so I'm doing that. I'm moving Craig Olenschlager from the mayor's rep seat to the unexpired term, so 12/31/13, in this Class 4, 4-year seat, again, the balance of 12/31/13, which then leaves vacancy in the mayor's seat. I have feelers out to a few alternates. I'm waiting for confirmation, so hopefully by the 18th, I'll have confirmation of who wishes to serve in the mayor's rep. Then I'll make that appointment, and then I'll have an alternate vacancy.
Problem's gonna be is getting the workers certification.
Well, everyone's a seated member of rep.
Well, I know Craig can move.
I mean, the alternate, well, so, and one of the alternates can move to the mayor's seat, too. Yes, sir.
Right.
But you don't need to appoint someone for the
I
alternate.
really don't. I mean, we can look at that, you know. Again, if you have anyone interested, let me know. I don't at this point have anyone interested to fill an alternate seat. I haven't reached out either. So, but to Glenn's point, they have to go through classes.
Right.
You know, is it worth the expense just to, but I believe, depends on the alternate seat.
Depends on if it's a 1 year or 2 year.
If a certain person moves to the mayor's seat, one of the terms expires at the end of this year. So I probably would just wait for the reappointment. So again, just to keep you informed. So,
1 year?
excuse me? Mayor's is year by year.
That's what I'm saying, so you're better off using your alternates.
Craig's was.
Well, it's official now that Craig's now in the already seat. there's a vacancy on the mayor's rep, which I hope to fill in. Okay, so you know. Okay, late public comment, do I have a motion open to late public comment?
So
Motion
moved.
on emergency.
I don't know, I didn't create the format of this agenda. Excuse me? Yeah, nothing, okay, so I need a motion for late public comment.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak?
On the 86 Standing Avenue. As far as who asked about the order from the water department to increase the rates, that was Ted. Ted brought up at a meeting that he thought we had to increase our rates. That's why that came about.
For the audit, correct?
Mhm.
Yes. No one disagrees with that, it's the
No,
merger.
no, Ray said he didn't know where they came about and why it was being done.
I think it was referring to the merger.
He was saying the rates. You said that we have all this extra money in there, so why would we be increasing rates? That's what you said.
I think you misheard.
No, I didn't.
Okay, what was intended there is that he's talking about the rates, right? If there is a merger option, if there is a way to save this borough money, and therefore we want to go spend money, let's all understand it before we go decide to spend the money, right? If members of the council have no idea what this proposed savings is all about, why go hire an attorney or an auditor to review an idea that we don't even know about?
Well, you did know that. You source questioned that, so you knew what it was about.
I asked to go through it, and Glenn offered to head a committee, and that meeting has never happened, so I don't know that.
Okay, the other question is that, I'd like to know if you do an RFP for every time you send the engineer to do different work.
No, because he's contracted for engineering work. The auditor is hired to do the audit, not,
He's your work, he's the auditor.
Right.
Just as your attorney is your borough attorney. Right. And any legal issues that you
no,
have.
there's a difference when you, when
No,
the
there's not a
when the attorney's
difference.
retained to be the engineer, and to engineer various projects. You're not going to RFP every single project,
The
you know.
engineer is hired to be the engineer.
So, again, I respect your comments. So you're saying, even if we know we can save money on it, we shouldn't
So I
try.
just question why you aren't also going after RFPs for every time you have a different legal
Because that's an
issue.
annual contract for engineering services.
So is the borough
No, it isn't. The contract for the borough auditor is to audit the borough, not audit the utility. He's not hired to audit the utility. He's not hired to audit LoSAP. The governing body can hire him, but I'm saying we should go to
I
RFP.
just, same thing should be for the engineer then. If that's what you're,
It's different because the engineer is hired for engineering services for the borough,
so is the auditor for auditing services.
for auditing the borough, not the utility.
I'm sure he does a lot of other things, other items for the borough, and I know that in the past they have, other than just doing the audit of the financial statements.
And we get bills for it, which I'm not happy with.
Well, you get bills for additional work the attorney does, other than just what the attorney's hired for, being sitting there for the regular.
It's a base contract with a cap on it. No, we don't.
You pay extra money for other legal services. When he does tax, then you pay extra money for that. When he has other legal issues that are not part of
It's
the borough
capped under
attorney's.
litigation. It's capped.
But you have, but it may be capped, you're charged up to that amount. So you are charged additional money, just like you are
But
charged
it's
additional
defined
money
in
for
the
the
contract.
engineer.
It's defined in the contract, exactly what we're charged for. The borough auditor's contract is specifically for the borough audit. It's a $33,000 to audit the borough at the end of the year. That's what he's,
But he is appointed as your borough auditor.
to audit the books of the borough.
It's just that he's the auditor for everything.
We just, we just got a bill from him for $5,000 for budget preparation. You know, I mean, didn't know that was coming.
So what's included in this?
Well, these are things,
See,
again,
I guess I wouldn't agree,
Well, that's
I agree
because-
with your comments, what
Because the
you're saying.
administration is supposed to prepare the budget.
You know, we have an attorney that comes and bids and says, hey, my fees are X, and if I do litigation, it's extra. If I do this, it's extra. When we have an auditor that says, here's my fee, and we go and hire him, then he says, oh, by the way, by law, you have to do these other things, and those are all extra, and we didn't tell you about it in
Well,
the,
we never, the other auditors never did that,
we were never charged
That's
for prior
what I'm saying,
auditors
we
for
don't-
budget preparation. No.
because they never did, except that they did it this year.
We were charged last year.
Because you did a lot more than they've done previously. Over the budget, many years, they didn't do anything because the auditor really didn't do much of it because the CFO and the borough administrator wouldn't allow them to do it, basically themselves.
If we can save the borough money, it's worth seeking an RFP on the utility audit. Anyone else have any questions?
Could I,
Yes. Bill, that point.
You 42 Boat Drive. Just a little clarification, if you would, for me. We send our street sweeper to Riverdale to do the streets, that's correct?
Correct.
And we call that a shared service. What's the difference between that and having Compton Lakes come in and provide water and sewer services for us? Is that not a shared service?
No.
I'm baffled by this, it's being
I'll tell you why.
a merger.
I'll tell you why.
Because you don't want to call it a shared service.
Okay, no, it's not.
Because you pontificate how pro-shared services you are,
Mr.
and then you won't enter into
It's
this.
not, well, okay, I will not enter into this. It's not a shared service, it's contracted service. They're a private, for-profit company. They're not a municipality. It's a contracted service. You're absolutely 100% wrong by stating it's a shared service. It is not.
You yourself just said before, we could probably save $60,000. And right a minute ago, you said you're for saving money anytime you can.
You're not stating the second part of my statement. Yes, what's been stated to date is we can save approximately $64,000 by merging the utility. The problem is approximately $200,000 of costs otherwise attributed to the utility now are absorbed by the current operating budget.
Money you're hiding.
Again, I can't talk about, we're talking generalities, I can't talk about specific employees. Let's say there's a department in town that has 3 employees who've been here 10 years, okay?
Well, don't talk about employees.
But that's what the money is.
Let's talk about co-mingling water and sewer equipment with snow removal and other instances.
I can identify the money I'm talking about that has to go to current operating budget, but it has to do with employees' salary. Let me just, again, I don't know.
I'm not talking about employees.
Look, your question, let's back up. Yes, we can save, so far, it's determined, $64,000 by merging the utility.
Who determined that?
That was based on spreadsheets provided last year and our treasurer and former CFO.
Provided by who?
The spreadsheets were provided previously by former Councilwoman Huntley.
But it was
Excuse me.
stored by them.
So anyway, so your question was, yes, it's a savings. The reason I'm not jumping for joy over the savings is because if you were to merge or contract service our utility out to another party, okay, there are 3 employees in our utility that don't go away. They're DPW employees, okay? So they would now become DPW employees. So even if the governing body says, well, now we have 3, we can get rid of 3 other people. It would be 3 people lower on the pay scale. The difference in payroll is approximately $180,000, which now would go to current operating budget. The difference between your 3 lowest and your 3 coming over, 2 being foremen, yes. Substantial difference in payroll that is now shifted to current operating. So you can't sit here and tell me $60,000 savings on the straight utility merger being offset by $200,000 having to be moved to current operating is a good thing.
This is considering now the money that's being paid to our contracted help currently.
That's all factored into the $60,000 savings.
It's all factored in.
Yeah.
I don't know about the public, I think I've stated this before, but it galls me when someone calls and says, there's water coming out of the ground. And our water and sewer employees come and they look and they say, you know what, there's water coming out of the ground. Wait a minute, let me finish.
That's fine.
Let me finish.
Please do.
There's water coming out of the ground. They call an excavator and he comes and he says, there's water coming, oh no, the plumber, they call the plumber first. And he says there's water coming out of the ground. Then he calls the excavator and they all stand around and they wait for public service to give them permission to dig. Doesn't a lot of this go away if we contract that service out to Compton Lakes? I seriously doubt that your figures are correct, sir.
Again, that is why Councilwoman Shortman will have a meeting with CFO, Treasurer, and Councilman Yazzie to prove that point. Hey, how many times am I on record last year? If we could save money, I would support a merger, but to date, I'm not proving that that's the case. Yes, please.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I'm representing my mother, who lives on 101 Knowles Road, and she has some questions and concerns about the Avalon Bay project. According to the August 22nd Suburban Trends, they refer to it as a high-density housing development. Is that terminology correct? Is that what you regarded as a high-density development?
It's 174 rental units.
Do you understand the difference between high-density, what they mean by high-density?
Who are you quoting, who refer to as high density?
I'm referring to towards sustainable communities.
Okay.
This book was written by one Mark Rosenthal, Mark
Yeah.
Rosenthal.
Sure.
This was an outgrowth of Agenda 21, which in turn gave birth to smart communities. And in this book, they described the plans for sustainable communities of the future. In 2009, President Obama signed a council with a committee, I guess you could say, called Building One America. Their goal is to redevelop the suburbs so that they all become part of one major city, and that all the taxes go to the city and so forth.
Mhm.
But that's when we have the game. Right now we're concerned about the Avalon project, Avalon Bay. And in this book, they describe the difference between low density, which is basically single family homes, medium density, which is townhouses of various sorts, and high density, sir, which is apartment homes. Pass it around.
Yeah, sure. If I may, while we're passing it around, just I don't know if you know do you know the entire history on Avalon Bay?
I do not.
Okay, that's a very important factor where you're going with this.
Good.
And I understand where you're going with this, is that high-density housing, this apartment building, and tying with Agenda 21, which I'm very familiar with, may not be good for a borough like Bloomingdale.
Yes, sir.
But just so you know the history, no one on this governing body, no one on our planning board who approves applications welcomed this when it first came. This was part of a builder's affordable housing. You know, New Jersey has Mount Laurel, a coalition of affordable housing. Well, Bloomingdale lost its certification, so Bloomingdale was subject to what are called builder's remedies, where builders can come in and sue for zoning.
Yes, they do.
And that is what happened with Federal Hill. The Mere tract was the first lawsuit. And then Avalon Bay joined their lawsuit. So both Mere, which is across the street on Union Ave, and Avalon Bay are both court-ordered developments. They were not approved locally by a governing body or by the planning board, just so you know. So it kind of tied the hands of the municipality at the time, being for or against such development, because it was court ordered. I just want to preface that. So even if everyone up here says, I don't like it, there's nothing they could have done about
Oh, I understand.
it. Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay. My mother wants to know just how big these buildings are going to be and how you're going to provide city services for them. Sewage, water, electricity.
Right.
Is Union Avenue going to have to be expanded in order to accommodate the additional residents in this project? Are they going to have cars? Are they going to have parking? I understand it's 13 acres.
11.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of units for 11 acres.
Sure, the density is high density. Sure.
Yes, sir. So, my mother wanted to know what's going to be done about utilities, about the roads.
Sure. I
And
mean, I'll address what I can. And again, your questions, which again, anyone here can address, and I will do what I can for you. But there was a planning board process, even though it was court order, there was still a process locally in the planning board where, the public had opportunities, how many stories and all of that, which was done in what year, 2009? Help me here, did someone help me here? What year were you?
2010.
2009, it was ultimately approved.
Which one?
Avalon Bay. Well, my point, I'm just saying that all of your questions, as far as density, height, and all that, was done 2-3 years ago by the courts. So here we are today. Your question, utilities. Well, electric is Butler Electric. They will become a customer of Butler Electric. Sewer and water, they will become a customer of the borough's sewer and water utility that we operate. So, they are hooking up to a main, both water and sewer on Union Avenue. And that's where they will get their services, and at the same time pay for those services. You also questioned Union Ave. Again, I don't believe, again, I wasn't here, I wasn't part of the planning board process, but There's no change to Union Ave. It's not being widened, it's,
It's a third lane going in the middle.
Well,
Turn lane to the left.
well, it's a turn lane, not the driveway. So Union Ave as a whole is not becoming a 3-lane highway.
No.
They are widening the entranceway. I guess the idea behind that was, what, 150 feet prior to the driveway, people can actually turn off 75, again, I don't know, 75 feet to then, to not back up Union Ave. I mean, will it increase traffic on Union Ave? Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, I understand it correctly, Union Avenue is a county road,
Correct.
but Avalon Bay is only going to be paying taxes to Bloomingdale, not to the county or the state. How are they going to, how is the county, how are they going to become accountable to the county?
Okay, well, you're mixing two things. You're referring to the potential pilot program where the borough gets 95% of the taxes and the county gets 5%. So they are still paying money to the county. They're still paying tax off to the county. Plus separately, they still pay tax on the land that is distributed equally municipal, county, and Board of Ed. So the county's still going to realize, what we read annually between the pilot and the what would be the pilot contribution to the county?
27 and change, plus out of the 91,000, 20% of that, so.
So they're still going to be receiving about
We get around 50.
50,000 in taxes will still go to the county.
Coming out of our pockets and going to the county.
Right.
And what you get for it is not much.
Regarding,
That's not a good thing.
regarding services, which Thursday we have the meeting about the pilot, which a lot of that will help everyone understand. But one of the things that is part of the negotiation is in the pilot agreement, if approved by the governing body, they are waiving their rights to any Kelly law provision which provides there will be no need, the borough will not be picking up garbage or plowing snows in this development. So that's a dramatic savings to the borough. As far as police, there's no need for additional policemen. Fire, former chief, there's no additional need for fire equipment. Again, a lot of these things are pre any one of us, but I'm just trying to answer your question as best I can.
Okay, my mom is actually the one who sent me up here for request.
No, please.
She's a photo reporter for Blanche Reports, which is an architectural trade paper. Let me just see if she has any other questions.
Sure, please.
Mother, more questions? No.
And based
That's all
on,
Doc's questions.
just to answer your first question, based on what you're showing us here, it's definitely a misuse of the word high density. It's definitely not going to be these high density units that your book is showing.
You asked about the height. How high are they? You know?
Maybe 3 floors?
3.5, 4.5, 65.
It's not, it's
65
medium
feet.
density based on what you're showing here. How do you want it?
More than 4.5 stories and 65 feet.
65 feet max, right? Thank you so much. Anyone else wishing to speak to anything? Yes, Mrs. Delia, please come up. You just need to come up, state your name and address, correct?
Just wanted to get the name of the contact person.
Oh, sure, for the affordable housing.
Yeah, I didn't catch it.
It's called, well, the company's Community Grants and Planning.
Planning.
And
And planning.
Yeah, just community grants is fine. The woman is Alyssa Marchesi, M-A-R-C-H-E-S-I, and her phone number. Can I give that? Yeah, absolutely. Here's the letter informing the governing body of this process. So I think the second paragraph of Alyssa's number's in there.
No, that's
Now
fine.
you can have it. Thank you. Yes, sir.
This has been brought up, Mike Azzolino, 15 minutes ago. The horse farm. Oh, the Decker tract.
It's now Green Acres forevermore.
Right. But 2 Decker tracts back. What they wanted to do. You know, when it was 24
Right.
units and then it went to 30.
Pre-approved or
so-
something.
I brought up the suggestion, is the same thing with the mere tractors. When these people come into Avalon Bay, and 174 adults live there, times 2, so say 350 voters. When they come to the town, or come into a position like Mr. Schiffman, and say, we want certain town services, what's to safeguard us now from preventing having those services given to them in the future? Mr. Schifrin either excludes himself, or he has to exclude himself with certain votes. If these people say, we want town garbage, or we want
people?
the 350 future Avalon Bay residents of this community, what voting rights are restricted? Has that been considered?
But the
when you
pilot,
deal-
yeah, the pilot which specifies those services will be waived for the 30 years of the potential
And their
pilot.
residents have to comply with that?
It's a deed, the pilot follows deed, it's a deed restriction of the pilot.
Okay, so that's already been, because what bothers me, Mr. Mayor, is that there's a lot of questions about this Avalon Bay project. And to me, time to contemplate what the public gives this council in terms of their feedback, whether it's pro or negative, and the time to take a deciding vote should not be a matter of minutes. So I personally would oppose a vote after the public presents their arguments, pro or con, to the council, and then the council votes that same evening. I don't think it's sufficient time to digest that information or go back and renegotiate. Just
Okay,
personal.
and again, I appreciate your comments, but the council in tonight's executive session will discuss in depth the potential agreement. So I think we'll fully understand the benefits financially to the borough. Okay, and then the public, had an opportunity for the past week to review as well, and present all the questions they can. The issue that I know for myself, and I know for Councilman Yasky, who we worked hard over the past number of months, getting to where it is today, so it's not like we just thought this up and 2 weeks went by and here we are. This was actually first presented in February.
Look, Mr. Mayor,
No,
I understand that perfectly. I'm just saying the
My point is,
public's comments.
it's all financially driven. If it's financially sound for the borough, and we hope we will prove our case both in executive session tonight and publicly on Thursday, that is why I think the borough should move forward for the financial assistance this borough greatly needs, what's going to be achieved.
Okay, I don't know anyone's position. I haven't looked at the documents. I haven't taken a position. All I can say is I've known you for a long time, and you've done very well by me and my family, both in Morris Lakes and your service in town. I still think time is needed to digest what the public has to say, and I think that's respectful of the public's comments if the council takes that time.
Thank you for your comments. Yes?
Could I ask for Rich Delaripa, would you mind answering a question? I know you, as a board member,
I guess not.
Is that on?
Yeah, no, I mean, do you want me to comment?
Yeah, just state your name and address. If you're willing to do that, would be great.
Rich Delaripa, Pine Tree Road. I will have to preface it with the fact that I am not authorized by your board
Okay.
to make any statements on behalf of the board. I'm going to be kind of talking as my own personal.
I
Yes, sir, I'll
appreciate it.
personal.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate the fact that you're willing to come up here at all.
Sorry.
Because actually, the more I study and read about the Board of Ed keeps popping up to me, and the effect that this will have on the Board of Ed. And yet, we have had no negative or positive, impact from them. I tried to get in touch with Lauren Greco, and I couldn't. And I'm just surprised by it. Can you give me anything?
I know there have been discussions between governing body people. Let me just say that the impression I have from what Mr. Hagel, as our business administrator, has told us is that the Board of Ed budget is basically fixed by the 2% cap, put that in quotes because we all know there's a couple waivers involved and stuff like that. And that the amount of, that we're talking about pilot or regular taxes or stuff like that, doesn't really affect what we can do to our budget. if that makes sense. So,
it-
well, it's partially true, doesn't make sense, but, you know, if somebody, no, that's not a good example.
Can I ask a
Let me
simple
help
question?
you.
Can I ask a simple question?
Yes.
One second. If 20 people come into your school system, does it affect your budget?
Maybe, maybe not. The school system, as it currently sits, operated as it sits, with possibly more teachers at the time. So that's the confusing part of it, or the flexible part of it. The infrastructure is there to hold easily another 100 students between the 3 schools that currently exist. Now, if you put 20 more children in one grade, obviously you have to hire another teacher, because that would mess up your ratio. But if you have 20 more kids and they are 3 per grade, we could probably absorb that without any problem.
Let me ask you a question. What happens when you put 20 high school students in?
Then that becomes a number,
That's a
correctly,
negative.
yeah. I mean, that's the contractual obligation we have with public.
That could happen anytime, even if development or not.
Right. Right. I mean, you know, for example, St. Anthony's closed. We're seeing more kids come from St. Anthony's.
You can have 4 homes sell and 12 new kids come into those 4 homes. So,
Or the reverse.
and the difference here is under a pilot, which we stated on the record before, is that there is a proven need, an increased cost of education, these special needs, or to your point, 12 high school kids. The borough will, and I, commit to funding that need from the pilot.
How do you fund that need?
You would do a side agreement with the Board of Ed. Just, the
What
borough's
line item does that come out of?
Let me help the conversation here. Wait.
Yes, because I know it's...
Board of Education has an $18 million budget,
Right.
okay? $1 million was spent on improvements this year,
Capital.
capital improvements. The capital improvements were done. Okay, so $1 million was available for capital improvements, and that's done.
Okay, where you going?
Does that make sense to you? So
No,
18 million budget, $1 million of it was spent on capital improvements. They have $1 million surplus sitting around. They don't need our,
They
Not
have a
one bit.
referendum for the capital improvements. What cash on hand for the municipal budget.
they're okay. I met with Mr. Hagel and went through details. Believe me, I looked for every angle to negotiate this thing and give us the up on it. And that was one of the angles I went after, and doesn't need it.
Yeah, the goal,
Can't use it.
the goal here, which yeah, we don't want to have to, Thursday's real important because we're going to have this. But the goal here is to put considerably, I mean, the spreadsheets are out, so under normal taxes after services, the borough would net about $120,000 from such a development. Under the pilot, we're going to put closer to $500,000 to the municipality. The goal is direct tax relief. Pay down debt, direct tax relief. That's going to be achieved as a result of the pilot. It's going to grow. I mean, I know there's speculation out there on the patch and things. The pilot's going to grow. I believe when we have executive session, because I don't think anyone who's not part of the negotiation fully understands it. Because I didn't. It took me 3 months to really get it and know this is going to be good for the borough. But how many times did Ray and I said in the public record, if it's not going to be good for the borough, we wouldn't support it. Okay? We went to the tax office, they assessed what it would be, so we had the regular tax versus the pilot scenario, and we will show you why it's going to be a benefit to the borough. And to the point of increased cost of education, if there was an impact, the borough can fund that. Can fund that. Because to your point, the Board of Ed's still getting money though, just so everyone knows. The Board of Ed's still getting about $50,000, they're getting 53% of the $91,000 that's paid separately from the pilot for lane. That doesn't go away. It's like today, Avalon Bay paid that this year. Last year, they only paid maybe $13,000, $14,000 before they had their reassessment based on approval sites. Okay? So the land, they pay about $91,000 annually. That's paid, Board of Ed gets, they're going to be getting 50 grand consistently from that. So that helps the argument when people say, what do they do a bond referendum? Where is the Avalon Bay's contribution to it? Well, they are getting revenue from it, aside from us getting revenue from the pilot. So it's so complicated, and we're going to need Thursday's time to present it, and I think we need tonight's executive session, because I don't think except Ray and I don't think Mark, John, or Linda, or Glenn really understand it, because you haven't really sat down with us about it. Right, because it's saving us till last Friday just to finish the negotiations. 2 months of intense negotiations to get where we are.
I'll tell you what it sounds like to me. It sounds like we're going to get this extra money in the borough for tax relief.
Yes.
And then the tax relief is given, but then the Board of Ed comes to us in 3 years and says, look, our budget is huge. We have 5 special ed students. We want to sit down with you and prove to you that we need money. Where do we get that money from?
My understanding is we'd have to prove that it was directly related to Avalon.
And you have to decide.
Oh, we have to prove
how
that it was
actually-
related to
Well,
Avalon
the
Bay.
question was, if Avalon Bay, everyone's
Right, so it's Avalon Bay.
Kids.
Suppose it's Avalon Bay.
Ms. Shortman, the tax relief you just talked about, right, what if you just turn that a little bit and pay off our debt? What's the number 2 cost out of our entire budget? The biggest cost, right? It's our debt. What if this helps get rid of our debt and we get us out of this mess of always being behind? That's the sort of tax relief we should have provided. So, what if? Yeah,
What's
what if?
Where do we get the money if they prove to us they need it?
Under the appropriate circumstances, right?
Right, it's proven. The students, everything is proven, the taxes are for the Avalon Bay. Where does this borough get the money to give them?
Did you hear the current budget and what was available for capital improvements? We were $575,000.
That doesn't answer my question.
They had $1 million to spend.
Yeah, but $1 million in 3 school systems is not a ton of
The
money.
roof, the new roof is $2 million.
They put the boilers in your building.
No, it wasn't. They put a new roof on.
Of course, you have $1 million to put boilers in a
What
school.
about Wolf Preschool?
That's not too.
It's not a lot of money.
The state dictates how
The
much
problem I
surplus.
have is
What?
for the
I'm sorry?
pilot.
The state tells you how much surplus you should have.
Will they restrict it? Yes. I mean, if we have more than, I believe, and don't quote me because I don't have the numbers here. You know, if we have more than 2%, they call that excess surplus.
I remember that.
And excess surplus
John.
has to be turned into tax relief in the next year directly to the taxpayers. So if we have $200,000 left at the end of our year, well, I'm sorry, not 200,000, but $200,000 above the 2% cap limit or whatever it is, that has to be returned back to the taxpayers directly in the next budget.
And to raise, listen carefully to Councilman Yancey's point.
They are allowed to have $1 million
Right.
in capital improvements.
Capital improvements, not surplus, capital
Okay,
improvements.
and
that's
and
outside
now how
cap.
much do they have after this project? How
I'm
much
sorry,
do you have
It was within the
now?
budget. It wasn't.
I'm not sure I'd have to ask.
Well, let me ask you
Obviously,
this.
They
How
spent
much other projects do they have after this $100 million?
The point is, they adopted a budget under cap, so it doesn't
Right.
go to the voters.
Okay.
And out of that budget, they had $1 million to do under capital improvements.
Right,
So
which
this
they
year, out of the budget, this year's budget, so next year they're gonna have that again.
They're not giving
Plus
us $1
2%,
million.
they're not giving us back, it's
back.
actually, right.
And I don't want to sit here and,
Right.
or that. We have to work
Okay.
with them hand in hand.
I don't mind
to do
talking
what's
about it
best for our borough.
publicly. I don't mind sounding stupid and asking dumb questions. Rich is more than generous just to come up and speak to us.
Well, if I could try and make a generic statement,
Go ahead.
once again, I can't make a formal statement, but, you know, based on the informal talks we've had so far, obviously we haven't sat down in an executive session with you or anything like that, but unless there's something out of the ordinary, like, you know, like the estimates for the number of students that are coming in is an order of magnitude wrong, or every student that moves in is a special education student, you know, barring any of that, we're not expecting any significant impact to the Board of Ed from Avalon.
So they're not, so the Board of Ed has no intentions of coming and sitting in front of this council in an executive session? Is that what you're telling me?
He doesn't know that.
Like, you mean in the near future? I'm unaware of any of that. In 5, 10 years, I don't know.
In 3 days?
Why?
No,
Before Thursday.
I haven't heard
Right,
anything
he's
about that.
telling you that there is none of that. They're fine.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Let's go through it, let's understand this.
A problem I see is I don't know what the time span of this pilot program is going to be.
30 years.
30 years. In 30 years, I'll be 79 years old. 30 years.
You don't know apparently you don't know the details of the pilot.
I know, but it's a 79-year, I'm sorry, it's a 30-year deal.
You'll be second.
Who does a 30-year deal, except for a mortgage? Who does a 30-year deal?
Please, you didn't even know it's 30 years. So you don't know the
I'm
details.
speaking my
You
mind.
don't know the dollar amount.
Wait a minute.
You don't know the revenue base.
You're right, I'll go over there.
At the beginning of the
No, go ahead.
meeting, you would know.
When you're done, I'll go there.
We're not, see, do that on Thursday.
No, I can go up there now,
You certainly can.
and I will.
No, my point is, you're asking a question as a council person.
Oh, but no, I didn't
You said no, you
ask a question, I made a statement. It's a 30-year deal.
Who makes a 30-year deal? It's a question. And I think if you take the time to understand the pilot, that you may not ask that question. Now, after you understand the pilot and you still have that question, feel free. But I think when you study that, because you didn't know it's 30 years, makes you believe you don't know the information. So take the time to do that, and then maybe you'll have a different opinion on it. You don't know, you're making these opinions without knowing the pilot. You did it yourself. You don't know the pilot.
I don't.
Right, so don't make these statements.
John, why do we have to move it to Thursday? Why can't we discuss it to them? I'm not prepared
Because
to
advertising,
present,
because
don't
it
get
was
me
10,
wrong.
Jane, how many, 10 days? It was 10 days. Had to be published, the ordinance had to be published 10 days.
So half the town may be here on Thursday, and they're not going to be privy to any of these conversations.
Well, I'm sure we'll have them again. I hope we do.
When we educate ourselves, let's understand it, ask all the questions, and if we're going to make a change, let's make the change, announce it before we, right?
Well, again,
You're kind of asking questions, who would do a 30-year deal? Well, if you saw the deal and said, I wish it was a 40-year deal, now you wouldn't be asking that question, right?
that's why I keep going back to the importance of tonight's executive session, because there's only two of us, Councilman Yazdi and myself, who know this inside and out.
So why didn't you put it in a really executive?
Because it's one thing, well, two, we have Thursday's meeting. That's not it. Thursday's always been specifically a special meeting for pilots. I don't care if we're here at 1 in the morning to 7 p.m. It's about the pilot on Thursday. A public presentation, letting ready, showing the details, public comment, hope for a long, healthy debate, 'cause that's what it's about. And we go from there. If the governing body's not content tonight, or even then, to take action, then sure, it could be the privilege of the governing body to have a second public meeting. We can talk about that. Tonight's executive session is for education, and that's important. Everyone needs to be educated about this before you can speak publicly about it. Sorry, anyone else? Thank you very much.
I did have one suggestion to Mrs. Frazier's question.
Yes.
Maybe we could put that memo on the website.
On the website, absolutely. I believe I do. Yeah. And Facebook. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make a comment? Yes, sir. That guy hasn't come for 3 years.
I know.
Keep coming.
Thank you.
Is it possible then, since a lot of people have asked some questions, to move Thursday's meeting, Walton Bergen School? We've done it. I know.
Chairs were thrown.
That could go.
Let's,
And you do have, I'd like to present this copy to you, John. It's the only copy I have of the school budget. And I'd like you to pay attention to the special education amount, just so you have it.
Jane could give us all copies.
I didn't think.
we're going to take a break before executive, so maybe.
Yeah, but you could run them one. We could have, you could have this back.
All right.
Thank you, Mike. And Thursday's meeting will be here. And if we see, out the door, standing remotely, then I'm sure the governing body may consider doing it another meeting if that's the need. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what Thursday brings. Anyone else have any comment?
Rich Duhame, 23 Hester Street. Question I have, very simple.
Yes.
Why would you give Avalon Bay a break or not pay their fair share of taxes for 30 years?
Because it benefits us, I'm sorry.
They're not paying their fair share of taxes for 30 years if you haven't passed it.
Again, why would we consider entering an agreement? Because it directly benefits the municipality.
How does it benefit the municipality if Avalon Bay is not paying their fair share?
Because the revenue as a result of the pilot structure is an absolute net gain for the borough.
30 years, you're not going to be here in 30 years. Council people aren't going to be here in 30 years. You're going to hold new people they'll be making different decisions with the money. You're giving them 30 years of benefit. You have to think about that before you make this decision. Tax.
Mr. Naheem,
You don't want to tax these people out here more than is proper, and you're giving them a benefit. They wouldn't be doing it if you were not giving them a
Of course,
benefit.
but Avalon Bay is definitely getting it back.
Think about it.
But for the borough in return to receive.
Well, you got to think about the taxpayers, my friend.
And if it benefits us more,
You're giving them a break for 30 years.
I can care less what benefit they get. If I get more
The
benefits than
taxpayers
they
will be
do,
paying. Hey,
that's
you're
a
not
good
going to
deal.
be here, pal.
What's that?
You're not going to be here
How do you know?
in 30 years. Trust me, you won't be.
That's my computer, 42 Grove Drive.
I was here 32 years ago. I was sitting where you are. I'm not there anymore. Time goes by.
I'm here 43 years.
I'm gonna be in this
There are a
chair.
lot of people like me in town. 43 years we paid municipal taxes, school taxes. Nobody ever once offered to give me a break. And yet the new person coming in, I mean, it just sticks me as something's wrong with this. Is this the American way? 43 years I'm here. And actually, you know, just sitting back here thinking about it, I'm going to get a little crazy right now. But maybe I should apply for the pilot program.
Sure.
Because I'm in a blighted area. I can't sell my house because my taxes are too high. I had people look at my house.
After 30 years, this was the day you were gonna get the credit.
Identical house in Butler,
What were
they
you
bought the
thinking?
house in Butler because it was $4,000
This
a
is
year
really-
cheaper in taxes.
Mr. Caputa, this
I'll
is
talk.
gonna give
I'll
you
have
the
to
benefit
show
that you've been looking for over the last 30 years. You don't even understand
43.
it. You're fighting it. Why? Why fight something you don't understand?
Why don't you tell us what it was all about in the beginning?
On Thursday morning, Thursday evening.
Why don't you
I
tell
will
us this
start.
evening? You have to go into closed session?
No,
What is this?
Excuse me, sir, before you take, no, you're fine. Right, come on. We're going to closed session because, and
Councilwoman Huntley asked you to put this on the table at the beginning of the meeting so that the public would know.
Councilwoman
And you refused to do it.
no, because, again, Councilman Conklin, Schiffman, Shortman, and D'Amato, are you comfortable enough to know what the pilot current terms are to speak publicly to it? Are you? No. No.
Nobody said anything about speaking to it. They just
Well,
wanted
you're
to
gonna
know,
speak to it in
just wanted to
public.
know what the conditions were.
It's a matter of a negotiation.
Listen to it publicly.
You need to understand it to then take the next step. Thursday is not a hidden agenda. Thursday's been a 2-week advertised meeting, specifically with no other business on it for this matter.
Why didn't you give it to us early?
Mr. Rio, do you understand the pilot? Do you,
I think basically I understand it, yeah.
I mean, I don't, based on your comments, I don't think you do. So Thursdays are important.
I think the closed session is everybody.
Closed session is real important to the governing body.
Why isn't it important to have the audience?
That's Thursday's
You
meeting.
have to understand it first.
Negotiations, you need to understand.
Why can't
Mr.
Can't
Caputa,
understand it together.
I don't want to talk to you.
Transparency
I
of
think-
government. There's my question.
terms of the pilot has been available for last week.
You haven't authorized the agreement, therefore it's a negotiation. Please.
You can't authorize it in closed session.
If you're not going to authorize a closed session, that's Thursday or another day if need be, but you don't.
I don't authorize it.
No, we need to understand it.
We
We
need
need
to
to
understand.
step by step, we all understand.
But the council, it's not an authorized approved agreement yet. Therefore, it's still a matter of negotiation, and the council needs to discuss it. Executive session this evening.
I think what we should do is cancel the Thursday meeting, because I don't, the towns, they got the papers last Friday, I have enough time to look at it.
Oh, yeah.
Holiday, it was a holiday weekend.
No, they got it. It was
It was
on
a
the
holiday
website
weekend.
Wednesday. What a problem that
The
was on the
website, we don't have a
website.
lawyer here.
What's
And we
the
have
question?
no input from the Board of Ed.
It was
The
on the
Board of Ed's getting hurt the most on this. That's who we need the input from.
Is anyone, we're still in public comment. Yes, sir, I'm sorry. Yeah, please.
My name's Kurt Kramer, I live on Pine Tree Road. Is Avalon Bay saying to you people that if you don't approve this plan, they'll stop construction? No. So you got the upper hand.
Yes.
You can dictate to them, you can tell them, look, if we're gonna give you the pilot, it's gonna be 15%, not 12%.
Exactly.
Exactly, it's actually,
Thank you.
Well,
which
We
is,
did the.
Why?
which is
you
exactly
can
what we did.
also say to them, you have to pay the full freight like everybody else in town. You have the upper hand. If they're not
We're
gonna,
by the pilot and all the benefits that we can turn into tax savings
Right.
for our residents. All goodbye.
Mr. Kramer, your point's exactly right. They had no,
well, my other point is this. If you take any 100 houses in Bloomingdale, their average is $250,000 apiece, right? 100 houses in Bloomingdale have to pay, at that our going tax rate, they have to pay 0.037 times $25 million, which said would be worth. They have to pay $930,000 a year. And you're telling us that these guys, Avalon, will only have to pay 12% of $4 million, which is only $480,000.
that's why there's a floor in the pilot of 550.
Okay, to 550, but as you get out with inflation, it's going to be 12% of their rent.
Which would actually bring us even more money.
Yeah, but you can be collecting 22% of their gross rents.
No, it's not. You would be
All the other apartment houses in town pay 20 to 25% of the rent they collect. And you're telling me these guys, they'll only have to give you 12% of the rent they collect. It's a huge loss for the homeowners. It's great for you guys on the board.
It's nowhere near 12%.
It's actually
You
closer
take
to
the
4.
550 plus the costs that they're gonna cover, that they're never gonna come after us, or the pilot is gone, it's 610 right off the bat, minimum. That's in a good year, it's 610. It could be a whole lot more that they're paying. They're getting a deal, but because of the deal they're getting, we're getting a tax break.
Look, all
It's
the-
kind of like a corporation getting a tax break, and they take advantage of it. We're getting a tax break that we're gonna pass back to all of us and our residents. All of us are gonna win as a result of this. Wait until.
Is the percentage you're discussing 12%? That's what I saw somewhere.
The agreement is 11 first year, 11.5, 12% third year, and forevermore, with a floor of 550. So the 550 is more like 15% from the
Yeah, but
beginning.
550 is a lot less than 900 or $1 million that they would have to pay under ordinary taxation.
700,000 on normal.
699.
Your number's wrong on 900,000 on normal taxes. This comes directly from our assessor.
What's he assessing it for?
It's based on,
What's he assessing it for?
hold on. It's based on,
What's he assessing it for? Is it 25 million? Is it 30 million?
19.
19?
it's based on, it's not based on 100% of gross rent. There's an expense factor that affects Waterfall Village, your building. There's an expense factor averaging 35% off your gross. And then there's a multiplying factor too. So you're taking, well, even
In my building, I have to pay 25% of the rent I collect.
there's a factor in the calculation of a 35% reduction on expense off your gross.
25% I have to pay. And you're giving this guy 12%. It doesn't add up.
So
It's
the
a
town's
put
gonna
down.
make an extra $15 million. If your building can bring us an extra $15 million, I'll be happy to give you a pilot as well.
You give me the pilot, and I only have to pay
If you can bring us an
12%,
extra
you got a
$15 million,
deal.
I'll
You got a
be saying that
deal.
right now.
You got a deal.
But he's not paying 12%. That's the price. It's 550 is the starting point. Plus the services, it's 60.
Yeah, but the 550 will only go up at 2% a year, right?
Well, yes.
It'll go up at 2% a year. If inflation if their rents go up at the rate of 3% or 4%, they're going to outpace. You're going to be at 12% of gross rents.
To your point,
And that's a good thing. If you get the greater
Right.
percentage of revenue, or
But under ordinary
550
taxation,
and that 550
under
grows 2%
ordinary
every single year.
taxation, it would be 20%, like every other apartment complex in town.
If the minimum they have to pay grows at 2%, and the rest of us don't grow at 2%,
and now you're taking this 30-year gamble on what inflation will be. You don't know whether we're gonna go into deflation or inflation.
That's why.
Why are you committing yourself for 30 years? This is ridiculous to tie the homeowners to such
I want to save you
a
money.
gamble.
Because I want to save me and you money.
You're not saving me money. If you could be collecting
You don't understand it.
900,000.
It's not 900,000.
That's
There's where you're, let me ask you this question. If you were convinced that taxes were going to be 700,000, does the pilot not present to you make sense?
You're still losing money.
You're not losing money,
You're
sir.
losing.
If you pay the county 19%, and under this you end up giving them only 4%, so there's 15% of county money available, and we only give them 13 of that 15. That means we keeping an additional 2% that would normally go to county for us. Right? Stabilize our taxes, his taxes continues to go up, so his savings continues to shrink. He's not getting the 15%. You would sit here and go, you know what, that's a pretty good deal.
Oh, maybe for,
So wait until you hear the
maybe for
details.
the borough manager who has to balance the books, but not for the 2,000 homeowners, because they're out $400,000 or $500,000 a year
We're not allowed to take a
in
penny
support
of the
from
tax
this
money
outfit.
home. Right? We don't get to take any of this money home. It's all because we want our taxes to go down as well. Wait until you see the plan.
Mr. Kramer, you know, I read your letters, and we are discussing that, but we'll get that. I read your letters and posts and things like that. And Councilman Yazzie and I had the same discussion. If the taxes were actually to be $920,000, Mr. Kramer? Are we good now? If taxes were to be $920,000, we both agree with your point. It would not make sense to do a pilot. The taxes.
Excuse me, we would have negotiated
Right.
something that would have given him 12% off the
No, off
920.
900, right.
Taxes are on 920. The 1699.4, we rounded up to 700. And when you see the analysis off of this, it's going to make sense.
Well, maybe your assessor is wrong.
Well,
You know, maybe he's lowballing. Maybe he's giving them a gift. I mean, $4 million a year of gross rent.
It's not gross rent. The gross rent's $3.8 million because the pilot's based on total revenue. There's a difference between total revenue and gross
Well,
rent.
gross income, 4 million, right? That's what it says in your report.
Correct, but taxes would be based on the rent component, not gross income. Okay, here's the calculation. Gross income, 174 units, average at $1,820 per month, times 12, $3,800,160 in gross rent. Less a vacancy allowance of 5%, which is done on all taxes. Less less operating expenses, which average 35% on all apartments. Operating income, there's a factor, that's where you came to 19 million, again, 2012 taxes to be 699,419 on that project. I mean, look at Waterfall Village. Waterfall Village is paying 500,000 in taxes. There's 20 additional units in Avalon Bay. So you're telling me Avalon Bay, which is 20 more units than Waterfall Village, would be paying double the taxes? That's mathematically impossible. That's what you're saying based on your statements. Waterfall Village is 150.
Waterfall Village isn't going to collect $2,000 a month like Avalon Bay.
No, but my point is based on the revenue, like you stated. Okay, the rent.
Waterfall Village has a lower revenue. That's why they pay lower taxes. They have a lower net income, and 10 times gross, 10 times the net income is what it should be assessed.
Their average rent's $1,300 a month. We've done those calculations.
Right, but this guy's are going to get $1,800 or $2,000 a month.
500 more a month, and if you do the math, it doesn't make their taxes double that of Waterfall Village, is what you're implying. That's just not the case. Not the case.
Your statement that maybe he's doing the taxes wrong, it's the same guy that's doing your taxes. So if he's doing those taxes wrong, he's doing yours wrong, right? So that doesn't, do you believe your taxes to be correct?
Well, we just got a big hike with the
Right,
reassessment.
but do you believe your taxes
And
to
we
be
don't
correct?
agree with it.
But it's the same guy, he's the only
20%.
expert in town qualified to do
20%.
that calculation. You're saying, hey, don't pay any taxes.
As I've looked at it, seeing
You gotta
what
go
rents
based on facts. Give it to us.
Treetop pays, collects, what rents Mountaintop collects, they're all giving the town 20% of the rent they collect. And this guy is gonna get away with paying over 30 years, he's gonna pay, he's
Stop looking
gonna
at
give
it
you
that way.
20, that he's gonna give you 12%.
This town has a
And that's
$10 million
ridiculous.
budget,
That's
out of which
ridiculous.
7.3 million is being paid by our residents and businesses.
Plus you're
This
cutting
money
out-
will reduce the obligation that we have to pass on to our residents.
Yeah, but if you're taking away a $300,000 or $400,000 a year tax benefit from these people, what's, you know, the trade-off is,
Because the city, the taxes would be $920,000. That's the biggest.
It's not.
even if it's only $800,000, it's still a huge amount of money.
699,420. That's the calculation.
I mean, if your assessor didn't charge them, it's a brand-new building.
Right.
It's gonna be a
it's
very
only-
desirable property.
But it's
If
based
he
on,
doesn't assess it at 12 times net income, he's cheating you. That's 700,000, he's
There's a
cheating.
formula.
there's, regard, yes, to your point exactly, it's based on the revenue, correct? Rent, gross, no, it's actually net expenses.
Revenue
Well, that's the
minus
formula
expenses.
you're using.
Right, it's gross rent minus expenses,
Should be your formula.
it should be your formula too. So your taxes are based on too. We're not, you know.
Right, and it comes out that I pay anywhere from 20 to 25% to you guys, for my family, that I don't.
I wish you could afford to buy every development area and build and get into this pilot program with the same tax break coming to us as residents. I would welcome that.
But the main answer I wanted to know tonight is, if you don't approve this, they're not gonna stop construction.
We don't have a crystal ball.
I mean, are you under some pressure?
No, not at all. But can I sit here and state if this is not approved, could he walk? I don't, I mean, sure he could. I mean, we're not under absolutely no pressure. I mean, but as far as he's gone, I can't imagine they would, but.
I mean, if they walk, you know, 2 years later, they're gonna sell to somebody who'd love to get that property and pay regular, normal municipal taxes, like every other landlord.
Not at the rate they're going. That's the whole point of giving incentives to get the revenue needed to help our tax base. I mean, we're in trouble.
We need to figure
We're in
out a
trouble.
way of
Well,
spreading
this
less.
situation, to me, this situation is like you have $100 in your 401k, and you're in a jam, and you gotta bail yourself out of jail or whatever it is, and you gotta cash in your 401k for $50. That's the choice.
That's not it,
No,
sir.
that's
If-
That's
Now,
not-
use that example, you got $100 in your 401k, but you got $300 in debt. Right? You're better off getting rid of your debt because your 401k growing at 2%, but your debt you're paying whatever, 3% of, doesn't make any sense.
What I'm saying is,
Start paying off your
what
debt.
I'm
This is
saying,
gonna allow us
what
to
I'm
do that.
saying is when a rateable like this comes into town, it's money in the bank for its relief, financial relief for 2,000 homeowners.
And under
It's money, it's an asset you can count on. And you're throwing it away to pick up a couple hundred bucks.
The borough under normal
Couple
taxes would
hundred
net
thousand.
$120,000 a year. That wouldn't touch your tax base.
Well,
That's not gonna touch your taxes. Under normal taxes, the borough would get $120,000 from normal taxes. After services, after Board of Ed, after county, that's gonna just get you a cap every year. It's not gonna give you tax relief. That is not.
Yeah. If you don't convince the homeowners to make this sacrifice, to give this outfit a break, and introduce unfairness in the tax system, which is going to be a tremendous morale depressor in this town. You've got to think about some of the subjective sides of it.
And all we're getting
And some outfit can come in, and all us old timers are treated like, I don't want to.
You're reading it the wrong way. Go.
37 years we've had our building. 37 years, and we've always paid 20 to 25% of the rent to you guys. And this pilot,
To the county,
this-
to the, you know,
well, to all the government services, be it education, be it county sheriff, be it the local cops.
We control
The fire.
26% of them.
right, we control 26% of this. And what we're presenting is going to provide the necessary tax relief that we need. Under normal taxation, there'll be no tax relief in that way.
I doubt very much if it was a combined vote of the Board of Education and the county freeholders and you guys that it would ever pass.
Correct, they would never
It
vote.
would never pass.
They would
So
make more money
you're
to
obviously
us.
working against the interests of the Board of Ed. You're obviously,
No. Your statement was
Right.
the freeholders. The freeholders would never allow us to keep more money for our residents than them doing whatever they do with that money. How much of that county money do you see every year back in Bibles?
It's almost as much as what you pay for municipal tax.
are you saying my county is,
Taking a lot of your money.
No, I'm asking you,
Take a lot
are
of
you
your
getting
money.
police services from your municipal taxes? School is separate, right? You're getting your garbage collection, all of that out of your municipal services. What are you getting out of your county?
that's a good
I can name
civics
a couple of
question.
towns that we pay a lot of money towards. They're getting most of the benefit. I wish we were in a different.
Well, you
town.
have the court system. You have the jail system.
True,
If there's anybody
and they're getting $5
robbing the
million
house,
a year out of
the
our money.
county keeps them there
Yes, and we're
for
paying
6
them,
months.
collectively, we're giving them $5 million a year. The
Well,
difference the county's not gonna get is not much. So don't worry about the county. And we're not giving away the school's money. We're gonna use it to pay down our debt, right, which is actually gonna compound the benefits, right, because there's interest costs. Don't worry, we're gonna show you all of this.
I looked at it, I studied it. Your numbers are definitely questionable. $19 million assessment as well. It's not, I don't think it's fair.
7 buildings seven apartment buildings assessed at 22 million, one at 19 million. It's low. There's 7 apartments in this town, 7 apartment complexes. The total assessed value, $22 million.
Of all of them.
All of them
This
put
one is
together.
19 million.
This one's gonna be assessed at 19 million, and that's what the taxes were based off of. That's where we started our negotiations off of, because you gotta know what your normal taxes are before you go
Did
negotiate.
you get any advice from the other landlords? Did you get Mr. Heapster in on this? Did
Is
you
that
get?
the advice? No.
How come you ignored all that know-how?
What do you mean, no how?
Well, I'm sure the people that run Treetop, I'm sure the people that run Mountaintop, I'm sure the Eamsters who've been here for 40 years at Waterfall Village have a lot of knowledge about the numbers and the fight. Is anyone on this board a landlord?
Let me ask you a question. If I told you, you don't do this, your taxes are gonna go up, your municipal portion are gonna go up 2% a year, because that's what the government allows, but because of this, it may not go up for the next few years, and we're gonna pay off our debt, which is gonna help us
I'm
keep
thinking
taxes low. Are
30
you
years
gonna
out.
sign
I'm
up
sorry,
for it?
sir. No,
Are you gonna sign up for
I'm
it?
thinking of I think long term.
Well, 30 years, let's remember too, 30 years it ends, so it goes back to
You're
normal
talking
taxation.
about ending a 30-year benefit.
Sir, 30 years, you're talking about 30 years. Well, the 30 years, it's over, okay? But if during the course of the pilot, if the percentage of revenue, okay, ever exceeded what normal taxation would be, you're concerned, then it reverts back to normal taxation. That's in terms of any pilot. Well,
You're gonna wait till he's 79 to see that day.
you're the one saying 5% inflation, 5% inflation, and rents are up to 8 grand. You know what, if rents are up to 8 grand, and your calculation had it as what, 69 million would have been paid versus, the annual payment to the borough would be close to $2.5 million if that was the case. So we're still
Yeah, but
giving
it could have been 5 million
No, it wouldn't have.
if you assessed it properly.
No.
If you use ordinary
So,
taxation.
okay, you're questioning the assessment, but then that means if you're questioning this assessment, your own assessment should be higher too. That's not what you want to be telling us.
Right, why am I here? Why should I care?
Because nobody likes the
This
fact
is
that
a-
Avalon Bay is going to get a benefit. And absolutely, they're going to get a benefit. But the only way, I don't care about their benefit. because
Any
it's a
benefit
for the
that
borough.
they get is our loss.
No, it's county money. It's not.
It's your gain.
It's your gain. The only money we're leaving on the table
It's very
is
confusing.
12% of the county money. It's the only money we're leaving
How
on the
does the
table.
benefit to them turn into a gain for us? That's what it is.
Right. The benefit to them turns into our gain. The only money we're leaving on the table is county money.
Some of them.
Some, not even all.
All you're doing is, you're saying, you guys can pay 60%, whatever it is, 70%, maybe you're claiming, or 50% of the normal rate,
87%, go ahead.
as long as we get 80% of that half that you would normally pay to help all the homeowners in town with their other problems with the Board of Ed and the county. So.
Every year I collect money and
That's it.
I give 20% to the county and I only get to keep 80 of it. And after this negotiations, I get to keep 83% of it or 87% of it. It's a good deal for us.
One last question. I'm kind of a hard head, so. One last question, sir. Does this deal run with the land or with the owner? When they sell land, so whoever it is, that's another unknown.
No, well, right. They sold 10
Joe
years.
Blow could be the owner 3 years from now.
Violence follows the land. Deed.
Right, so, that makes it worse. Anyway, okay, I thank you for letting me have my
No,
say,
please come Thursday.
and I guess I'll be here Thursday,
Good, please
if you don't mind. And I wanted to thank you for responding in kind on the patch.
Yeah, I didn't know who responded and I said, I don't respond
Well,
well to unknown names.
It was
But now I can
reassuring,
relate to
it was reassuring that at least somebody's listening.
I'd be happy to sit down and take you through the same spreadsheet as much time as you need. But once you agree to it, then I'm going to need you to come up here and say that you support it.
Good luck.
Anyone else wishing to make comment?
Wendy Connolly, Lake Iosco. I had promised myself I wouldn't come up
I
to
was wondering when you were going to come.
The pilot program was presented to you, or you presented to Avalon Bay. Where did the pilot program initiate? From where? Where did it start?
From our borough auditor.
Okay. Has anyone gone out to any town, county? Is this program, the pilot, been in effect anywhere? Can you do a 5-year study anywhere to say these results have been proven over a 5-year period in this town or with this organization? Because Avalon Bay is very big. Their stock trades at about 110 a share. Their financials are spectacular.
Right.
They have very
It's a
good
good-
management.
It's a great-
okay?
Because the revenue can only grow.
But we cannot compare to what they have. In other words, they're astute business people.
Correct.
Okay? Can someone reach out and find out if someone's doing a pilot program and what the results are?
Yeah, and those results, we would never sign up for.
Right. You can, but they're not what we going to get in our negotiation.
See, can I go into it a little bit? A pilot, right, a redevelopment is creating a tax benefit to a builder to come and redevelop your run downtown, like what we have, right? So we want to give a tax advantage in order for these developers to come and renew. So usually when you sign up for one of these things, when you sign up for a pilot, all you're getting is 10% of their gross revenue, which is about a 35% benefit to the developer. They're not getting a 35% benefit. Right? So if we go do the research based on some other town and based on their 5-year study, they're going to say, you know what?
You do apples to apples, oranges to oranges. There's got to be a lot of programs out there that are very similar.
There's nothing close to what we negotiated, percentage-wise.
The fear is that once the presentation is made and you have Waterfall Village, you have people that have been here a long, 25 years plus. Their impact versus a huge conglomerate, it's not the same. You're not justifying what they perceive as their...
Okay, and I understand where you're going with that, but this is a redevelopment. This was approved as a redevelopment area. The plan, just so you know, is from Van Dam all the way to the Horse Farm, and all of Main Street from Riverdale to LaSalle, Kings Corner. So to where you're going with your statement, let's say, because it will happen, next year we get redevelopment on Main Street. And a developer comes in and says, I want to buy these 6 buildings from these blocks. And we incentivize it with another pilot, just for example. You would come here again saying, that's not fair, because the guy who's been here 30 years has been paying regular taxes. The whole goal is to incentivize, to bring something that otherwise doesn't exist. As Ray said, 90+% of our tax base is residential as it is. The difference with Avalon Bay, it was here, it was coming. That's why our negotiation was much greater than most. So the advantage of this one is, the next one, we have our template, and we have what Bloomingdale wants them to do a pilot, which is tenfold what a normal pilot will do. But to your point of, it's not fair to the guy who's been here 30 years. Okay? When does that end in the sense of, then never redevelop Main Street?
No.
Then never redevelop Union for that
The
argument?
problem's going to be that the decision is going to be made by you without them having an input via a vote. And that's going to create the problem. In other words, the board is going to make that decision.
That's our job.
I understand that, but it's going to seem impractical to these people because this is a major decision that's being made.
You're assuming that it's going to be impractical. It's a good deal for everyone.
But I'm hearing all the positive
All
here
you're
and hearing all
hearing,
the negative.
but the negative you're hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the mean old Avalon Bay is getting a benefit. That's what you're hearing. And people need to put that aside. Absolutely they're getting a benefit. No question. We'll be the first one to say, yes, they are. But the only reason they are is to return the benefit we're getting. It wouldn't exist without that. So if anyone can sit here, once we do this detailed presentation, and tell me that under normal taxations, the borough's going to get 110 grand if we're lucky, versus $500,000 under a pilot that we commit. And I'll even go further, because someone's going to say, well, what if you're not here and the next governing body spends that money on wish list items? I'd even commit by ordinance, if you can, that this money is for direct tax relief. Because that's the whole mission here. It's not to go buy new toys. It's not to go change our lifestyle. It's to pay down debt. This borough, how many times must we sit here and talk? You know. Well, again, but then someone would argue another governing body to repeal that ordinance, and that's for naught, okay? But the theory is that would make notice if someone was to do that. But it's all about direct tax relief. Because it's never going to end. We're in trouble. Okay, 100 grand from Avalon Bay, not going to change anything. We'll be in worse trouble next year, worse trouble the next year, so on and so on and so on. It ain't getting any better. And this is not short-term, long-term, a fix
a real good fix that Bloomingdale hasn't seen in its 100-year history.
Does the decision have to be made after Thursday's presentation? Could you do another presentation?
That would be up to the governing body, we certainly could. Thank you very much.
Gino, what I don't understand is these numbers are based on an assessment you say we got from our tax assessor?
Correct.
But yet in the SEC filing of Avalon Bay, they have their total capitalized cost for Avalon Bloomingdale as $30.4 million.
Right.
Even if you would deduct $5 million for the infrastructure that they're spending to develop the land, I don't understand, I guess, the initial assessment. It was
Yeah, if you
19...
go- I can explain it really simple. If you go add-on to your home, your add-on is not worth as much as you spend to get it built. It's the same thing. For him to build it, it's costing you more than if he was turning around to sell it tomorrow.
It costs you more to build a new
The
house.
assessed value is not as high
So
as
his
it's costing him
capital
to build, especially with all that plastic.
cost of, let's say, $25 million, it's not going to be worth $25 million? He's going to put $25 million into it, but it's not worth it?
Right.
He couldn't sell it for that?
He's gonna get that
That's why he's not
forever.
renting.
It's forever and ever and ever in rental revenues while he pays it off in 10 to 20 years.
I don't know, it seems like his filings are a lot more money than our assessment, though.
But
Did you see the interest rate he pays? He goes after venture capital money and all that to raise that money. Have you read all of it?
No, I
The
just,
10K and the 10Qs, how the business is performing? They're doing fantastic.
buy stock.
Jeff,
No, they don't exist.
Good evening. Jack Miller, Revab. How are you? Maybe some good news. Just an update on some flooding stuff. 27th, we had that heavy rain, like that flash flood, made it a point to drive through Van Dam. In the council, in our committee, I should say, people that show up and have some input, Mr. Tinnell brought up to the engineer about putting a new pipe in Poplar Street. Worked out great this time. That's a plus. That's a good thing. I talked to Mr. Donald Foskey. I left him a voicemail because I know he's a little banged up right now.
he was on vacation.
Yeah. I got input from a few people on the committee to continue on with some de-snagging in places to do that.
Sure.
So we're moving ahead. I don't know if anybody that's going to want to come in Main Street because we can't do nothing with the gathering walls till March, so we're going to flood it out over there again probably. But anyway, that's, another day. I got a question for you.
Sir.
You had, I read somewhere that, I know we use 80,000 of the Rose Fund to pay for the bond.
The deposit on
The
the bond.
bond, right. I saw that you said 1.6 million we could use some Rose Fund money to pay this off. I didn't think we could do that. I thought, because we used the 80, now just hear me out. 80 would be a percentage of like 800,000, okay? Right, because we had to pay a percent of the bond. I don't specifically know how the numbers worked out. We had to give them,
5%.
right, 5%. I thought we said because the only thing that was going to be affected was the Leisure Field, right? That would be the only spot that we could use, whatever we use for that segment.
That's no problem.
And
Again,
Sloan Park.
last year, the council
Okay,
voted on a $1.8 million
right,
flood mitigation bond.
correct.
The bond ordinance is very specific, and I apologize, I don't have it with me, and get your copy on the break. Earmark 1.6 of that 1.8 as recreation related.
I'm asking, how did we do that? Because I thought we couldn't,
Again, I'd ask.
There was-
I didn't vote on it. Ask Glenn, Joanne.
I didn't think we did that.
Well,
I didn't think we said that the roads could do that.
because it was rec related, was the theory behind the thinking was because the projects were rec related, Daly Brook, the Leisure, backing up flooding, Sloan Park, blah, blah, you can then use the roads, which they did, 80,000 for the deposit money, and if
Right.
you can use 80,000 for deposit money, why can't you use Rose Fund to pay down that debt? The Rose Fund ordinance clearly says for recreation, maintenance projects, et cetera. So if by ordinance, last year, the governing body clearly identified 1.6 and 1.8 as regulated.
I didn't think we did though, that's what I'm saying.
I get the ordinance, it was adopted that way. I'm not making this up, Jack.
My input to you and my vote on that bond ordinance, I don't believe there was ever one discussion by this council that ever pointed out that we would use the Rose Fund money to pay back the bond. That was, no, wait a minute, that was never part of our discussion. However, the $80,000, I believe the discussion was that when we got the bond money, it would be put back in the open space.
We get the bond money, we bonded it. That's your deposit money, not putting it back.
We've used Rose Fund money before at Sloan Park to do things, and the money was returned.
When you got FEMA money back.
I can't see that this was, other than just to get the deposit paid, I can't believe that this
Okay,
would
that's
be
fine,
paid
that's
as part of open space.
Then that's
I
fine.
just don't.
How are you paying back the flood money?
How would
Let's say
flood
FEMA gives you 75%, still 25%. Let's say FEMA gives you nothing, or it gives you 30%. How are you paying that back?
We're going to have to budget for it, aren't we?
Correct. That was my point of where you were going. My argument was, why touch the Rose Fund when you have a dedicated TAC outside cap? That's fine, don't do it, but now you're going to pay that bond at a current. Doesn't matter, neither here nor there, but one's inside cap, one's out, so.
Yeah, but that was my thing. I thought you could only use so much of what we were doing because it was by that ball field. I thought that was.
Look at the ordinance, again.
Yeah.
5% of it was, it was 80,000 or 1.6 million
Right.
was for recreation-related
Right.
items.
Right.
And we took the money out of the open space portion of the
Correct.
Rose Fund,
For the
which
deposit.
was going to be paid back, because you had stated that, when you had spoken to FEMA, when Ted had spoken to you, that we anticipated getting 75% of that back.
That's what we're
And that was
anticipating.
what was going to be used to pay back the Rose Fund and pay off the debt. We never anticipated using the Rose Fund to pay off the debt.
But somehow the debt has to be paid back. If we're anticipating to get FEMA money,
Just like we paid at the sidewalk, if we paid for our regular, that's the budget.
that's fine. I have no problem with that. But I just think it's business-wise more cost-effective to pay it out of the Rose Fund.
But you couldn't pay it out of Rose Fund, it's not recreation maintenance, nor is it,
You're correct. The ordinance reads, it's recreation.
we used it out of open space with recreation-related items, not recreation maintenance or recreational projects.
It's not.
That was for the deposit.
Right, that's all it's for, correct.
But what are you doing with the money?
So a governing body could allocate a lot of money to open space and then use the open space to pay off the debt, right?
Not to pay off the debt, it's only.
They could, I said.
It has to be
could.
paid back
What-
with open
right.
space.
What are you doing with
Understood.
What is the
You're
borough
saying
doing?
you can't use the Rose money.
What is the borough doing with the $1.6
For the
million?
deposit, and then you gotta pay it back.
Recreation.
And that's why it was, the excuse was
Yeah,
1.6
I'm
million.
asking.
That was, there's no
I'm just-
1.6 million worth of it, right?
Okay, well, we have a little tax team over here, so.
It
That was
does,
just,
it does flow through the recreation.
You know,
we didn't have it.
How did that work?
Leisure, yeah.
We made the excuse of 1.6
It wasn't an
million.
excuse.
All right,
We
wait.
made the excuse
It wasn't
of
an
1.6
excuse.
million dollars to be able to use the.
Exactly what happened.
That's what. Right, there isn't 1.8 million dollars worth of recreation maintenance.
What for instance?
Right. That was my question. What is considered added out of that, right, for recreation that we can use that? Slow park.
Everything in the flats is pretty much attributed to rec, because, and it, you know,
It flows through.
it does, it ultimately can flood, anything you do in the flats, desilting, poplar, the culvert, will ultimately stop flooding the glacier, which we spend a lot of money. So, yeah, I mean, it's justifiable. So therefore, if it's justifiable that it's rec, repairs, maintenance as such, you can absolutely use the Rose Fund to pay down the debt. And if you choose not to, a governing body,
Well, I believe the
That's
Attorney
fine.
stated you couldn't do that.
no, he stated, and that's where there was confusion. He stated the Blue Acres component that was amended to the Rose Fund was strictly for, you can use the Rose Fund to buy out flood-prone properties to then turn into open space and recreation facilities, uses, whatever. That's a separate issue. But you can always pay down, read the, I had it at our last Tuesday meeting, because that's what I was presenting. The ordinance specifically says, the Rose Fund can be used to finance debt related to recreation projects, maintenance.
It says the Rose Fund.
Yes. In the Rose Fund ordinance.
Yes, it does. I know that. Right. I thought, the attorney said, we were all, myself included, under the assumption that this Blue Acre would justify us using that money to do that, which it's not. It's for buying out
Correct.
homes.
Correct.
So everybody was under the wrong assumption.
Correct, I would agree with you.
Okay. But we can use 1.6 of that to pay off this out of the Rose Fund, if that's the way it's
Sure,
determined.
it's direct maintenance.
Okay.
I would agree. That was the reason this whole thing came up, and what you're referencing, is because of the revow caused 82,000 more in the Rose Fund. So the governing body voted to put that on a referendum. And our position, which we agreed upon, and probably didn't agree upon, was to put the question on the referendum and give the flexibility to a governing body to do that. Councilman Yassi is on the record saying, if there was a year of financial need where you didn't need the .025, lower, gives that flexibility. But now, if the public passes the question with 1.04 tax bring the 105 originally back in, then 80,000 that was shifted for DPW costs this year, and even if you wanted to shift that back, because Avalon Bay money is going to be sufficient to pay that, you could use it for the debt. So why wouldn't you keep the 80 grand in there to pay down debt on a bond out of a dedicated tax, rather than shift that bond repayment, which is going to be, what, 50 grand, 60, 70 grand a year? Why would you put that into current operating budget? And more of a reason, all this, these actions of the council, shifting that money, that's fine if that's their choice. Shifting the 80 grand back, that's fine if that's their choice. Paying next year we're already at cap with these actions, by the way. More of a reason why this pilot has to happen to make the difference for years going forward. Otherwise, it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. The only reason I'm going to support the pilot, and Councilman Yaffe, and hopefully everyone else, once we understand it, is because it's financial hope for the borough, and it's going to make the difference, not just short-term, long-term as well. But again, that's the whole point of the 82,000 came up because the voters vote on it. Now you have to come out of current operating budget to pay down that debt. Right. How are you doing that with this state of mind, with the state situation?
1.8 is going to cost us $200,000 a year.
Where's that come from?
Only what we take out of there, though, right? Only what we use out of there?
Right.
And hopefully some of it is FEMA
Right.
reimbursed.
You can't think on that. You have to go to permanent bonding one point in time. What if FEMA doesn't pay it?
When you voted on the bond for flooding, did you
He
understand?
wasn't here.
Oh, you weren't here for the bond.
The only three that voted on it were you, Glenn, and Mark.
Which, by the way, I would have still voted on it because that's a need of this borough. And we
No, that wasn't my
we had to
question,
get it
no.
done.
My question would have been that, if you, since you didn't vote on it, would you have voted with the knowledge that it was paid for the Rose Fund? Because that discussion never took place, the payment.
No, I'm not, again, I never said that was what was decided back when it was voted on. I never said that. I'm saying,
Rescind the decision
Correct.
of, let's put it in front of the voters
Right.
and make it seem like we're going to give them a tax break, but we're really
Right.
not.
My point
Because
is-
we're just going to tax them on this
Absolutely.
payment. But when that decision was made to let's lower the Rose Fund and not use it to pay down this bond, that's
You're
where I
playing
was.
games with the taxpayers' money, that's all you're doing. Yes, you are. If there's a 2% cap, we ought to stay at a 2% cap instead of shifting money out of cap. The taxpayers still have to pay the bill.
you have a dedicated tax, is the whole point. Again, when the flood bond was done, no one ever said, this is being done with the intentions of the Rose Fund paying it down. You know why? Because we knew back in 2011 it wasn't possible. It wasn't possible with the lights, the regular maintenance, okay? It's impossible to have made that knowledge, that statement in October last year, the Rose Fund. But now they have a reval that's bringing 80 grand more. Now it's possible to pay some of that debt down. Okay? So, but instead, the governing body chooses to go to referendum to have it brought back to the original amount, so you know that option's gone. So now, you have to, this year's budget, with the council voted on, shifted $80,000 of DPW salaries to the Rose Fund this year. So now that when that 80,000 is gone, that's going back. The bond note's going back. It makes no finance 101. Doesn't make sense. That's costing the taxpayer more money and leaving the Rose Fund where it was.
Why don't we take the $50,000 budgeted to the rec commission and take that out of the Rose
What
Fund?
do you mean $50,000?
The budget, the yearly
That's not-
budget for
that-
recreation.
That's not 50.
It's not 50, it's
Not near
30 and change.
30 and change, because that's recreation. The Rose Fund ordinance is recreation projects and maintenance. Running
We
the
have
rec-
recreation, running our rec department is a project.
Recreation.
You want to kill recreation? What do you say?
Well, it is, but
It
so
costs
so is the whole one issue.
$14.50 a year on average
For a homeowner.
for what's known to be the greatest asset this town offers today.
The schools.
Our entire
It's
recreation,
not recreation.
our schools
You
and
have to
recreation.
become more
Every
than
town has schools.
recreation.
Every town has schools.
I mean, not-
September 25th, flood meeting.
Bring your ideas.
Bring your ideas, they
Now,
work.
he just shot my next question down. I can't believe he did that.
Sorry about
I was going to request that the governing body change our September 18th meeting to the 25th.
Oh, thanks. Won't be out again, thanks.
I will be out of town from the 13th to the 20th, and I made these plans, I probably didn't check the schedule, but I did check my calendar, and that's the 25th is the fourth Thursday. And I know we changed it because of the 9/11, I believe, to begin with.
No, we went early, we went tonight. Usually it would have been 11:25.
Right,
We went
because of
4:18,
9/11, right.
I'm not available on the 25th, I know I'm not.
I'm not available.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Late public comment? Seeing no one, do I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Do I have a second to close?
Not that.
Going once, going twice, second to close. Come on over. Second to close public comment, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I need a motion to go into executive session at 9:16. There'll be matters of, three matters of negotiation, one matter of attorney-client privilege. There's a motion by Yazdi, second to go into executive.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll take a 10-minute recess.